Lee Bennett Hopkins is juggling poetry, tossing the syllables up in the air, prolifically, dactylly, matter-of-factly, lovingly, dearly, inventorly, mentorly, phantasmagorically, all those anthologies. Lee Bennett Hopkins, you are the bee's knees. My name is Alan Wolfe, and I love Lee Bennett Hopkins. Yes, I do.
Hi, Lee Bennett Hopkins. This is April Halprin Wayland. We both have 3 names. Lee, I'm here today to thank you so much for all you've done for poetry for children in the United States, in my own career, in the world, enriching our landscape, enabling us to do more and more for children. And I'm here today to read you a poem about my imagining what it must be like for you to be an anthologist. What is it like when you get lots of poems? How do you pick them? How do you arrange them in the right order? I put that together with I Know That You Live by a Cove. It's called Collector, for LBH. Walking along the shore at sunset in sandals, you bend to collect the right rock, the best twig, the perfect poem. Washing them in a blue enamel bowl, you turn on Mozart low, barefoot in your kitchen by the cove. Sitting on your heels on the wooden porch, you position, then reposition each piece. Here, here. Stomping inside, slamming the door, you turn on Sondheim, loud. At sunrise, in your slippers, you come out on the porch to shuffle them again. Suddenly seeing it. Sequence, order, symmetry. Done. Thank you, Lee.
Hi, Lee. Thank you for everything you've done for children's poetry, your anthologies, your awards that you've helped get started, and most of all for your own beautiful poetry. You're a giant in our world, and we all love you. Thanks.
This is for you, Lee, your eyes. Through your eyes, the blue sheen in the deeps of the glass we see. Your poem, the lens that magnifies each moment, the petals tremble, the flash of a butterfly's wings as it takes to the air, leaving us awash in color and flight. Thank you for everything, Lee.
As a writer, I wish and work for the perfect words to connect people, to summon understanding, to bring peace. For his America at War project, Lee accepted 2 of my poems, A Soldier's Letter to a Newborn Daughter for the Iraq section, and Wish for Peace, which he said was wondrous. He had an idea and would get back to me. For the next week, every time my husband Jim looked at me, he'd whisper, "Wondrous." No one appreciates an encouraging word more than a writer. Lee decided to use my poem as the prologue for the book. At a national SCBWI conference, he showed me F&Gs, my poem Wish for Peace, with Stephen Alcorn's stunning artwork, was also on the back cover. I was overwhelmed, grateful, humbled. Lee, thank you so much for being a mentor, dear friend, an amazing anthologist, a Pied Piper of poetry. You have enriched countless lives. You've made a wondrous difference in the world. Bravo! Hooray! You are such a worthy recipient of the NCTE Excellence in Poetry Award for a lifetime of devotion to spreading the joy. Thank you for all you have done to put books and poetry into the hands and hearts of children everywhere.
Thanks for all you do for children's poetry and children's literacy, Lee.
Thank you, Lee, for gathering so many flowers in your anthologies.
Hello, Lee. It's Amy Ludwig Vanderwater with a poem for you. Private Party. In the Library of Congress on a lovely August night, poems tiptoed out of books, dressed up in black and white. Tonight we celebrate a man, one poem raised a toast to LBH, who makes us think he loves us each the most. He wrote us down for children who've read us through the years. Our words make families giggle. We light dreams, dry lonely tears. And so, this night, we thank you, our Father, kind and clever, whose living breath makes poems sing. Through us, you'll live forever. Thank you for your generosity, your wisdom, your poems, your humor, your great spirit. Much love to you, Lee.
Hi, Lee. Sonya Sones here, and I'm going to read you a poem that I wrote to celebrate. I've never been in one of Lee's incredible anthologies. I've written lots of poems for him, but none of them has made it in. He didn't take the one I wrote about the bilious billy goat. He didn't even want the one about the talking sticky bun. It took me almost half an hour to write that poem about cauliflower, but did Lee take it? He did not. He claimed he didn't have a spot. I thought for sure he'd like the ones I wrote about the Uzi guns, but Lee nixed all of those poems too, even the ones I wrote about poo. Although he keeps rejecting me, I'm really awfully fond of Lee. So here's to you, Lee, here's to thee, here's to the high priest of poetry.
Let's celebrate Lee. Today's a day to celebrate, a day to honor Lee, a man with a smidge of mischief, champion of poetry. Not only is he a writer, he conjures anthologies, selects a theme, recruits the poets, endures our "more time, please." He knows the magic of rhyming, harmonizing doubles, verbal echoes that hypnotize, his grinning syllabubbles. With his sly wit and love of words, a lifetime of discipline, he earned a writer's special wish. We read him again and again. Thanks, Lee.
I'm Bobby Katz, and I've known Lee Bennett Hopkins for over 45 years. And here's a poem for him in the style of poet Joyce Kilmer. I call it Kilmaresque. I think that we shall never see poems flowering upon a tree, but there are poets, including me, whose poems have blossomed, thanks to Lee, once placed in Lee's anthologies. Like dandelion seeds in a breeze, our poems flew off to libraries, in children's classrooms, if you please. Wit and rhythm, word by word, no longer silent, could be heard. Now kids discover, thanks to Lee, how cool a thing a poem can be.
I'm Heidi Mordhorst. In 2009, when I was still a stranger in Poetry Town, I found myself sitting in a large room surrounded by very famous, very skilled, very visionary writers for children. We were there to celebrate with Lee Bennett Hopkins, winner of the NCTE Award for Excellence in Poetry, and Sylvia Vardell and Janet Wong had kindly invited me not only to attend but to contribute to the commemorative anthology. The poem I chose, Stanza Means Room, was not written specifically for Lee, because at that time I had never met Lee. So I sat in that room a little uncomfortably, lurking at the edges of Poetry Town, listening to the words flowing and the stories rolling, and suddenly I understood that Lee Bennett Hopkins was the mayor of Poetry Town. So when the time came, I stepped up to the podium and went ahead and introduced myself to the legendary Lee for the first time. In his handshake, I felt the warmth and welcome of the children's poetry community, and it turned out that my poem was a pretty appropriate choice after all. It begins, "Come into the house of my poem," and it ends like this. "This stanza's the back door. Farewell. You aren't the same now as when you came in, a guest in my poetry house." Thanks, Lee, for inviting so many guests into Poetry Town, and for making it a comfortable place for all of us. We're not the same now as when we moved in.
Hey Lee, the first award that I ever got had your name on it from you, so congratulations to you on this award. It couldn't have happened to a more deserving poet. Keep writing, and thanks for all you do.
Hi, this is Matt Forrest, Esenwine. I just wanted to take a moment and thank Lee Bennett Hopkins for everything that he has done and continues to do for children's poetry and for children's poets. All the books and the anthologies and everything, and all the awards that recognize his great contributions. The Guinness Book has, and he's a one-man cheerleading crew for children's poetry, and so many thanks, Lee, for everything you've done and for everything that you continue to do for children's poetry and children's poets. I wanted to just share a brief story about how Lee and I met and what he's done for me personally. We met through Stephen Withrow's blog, Poetry at Play, about 4 or 5 years ago. We happened to agree on whatever the blog post was. There were a whole bunch of folks commenting, and Lee and I shared a common viewpoint, and so I thought I would just email him and introduce myself and say, Lee, I appreciate your comments, and I agree with you. And he was very cordial, sent me an email back saying, thank you, and good luck with your writing and all of that. And so when I sent him a reply, I included a little poem I thought he might like, which he actually really liked. He said that was one of those I wish I had written those moments, which just floored me. And he said, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. And he did. Over the course of the several years following, he's gotten me in touch with a couple of different folks, one of them being the wonderful editor Rebecca Davis at Boys Mills Press and Word Sung. And she actually is picking up one of my manuscripts. It's going to be coming out in 2017, Flashlight Night. So many thanks, Lee. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. And, of course, I wouldn't. Where is it? Right there. I wouldn't be in a Lee Bennett Hopkins anthology if it wasn't for Lee Bennett Hopkins himself. And that was the first big break, as they say. So thank you, Lee, for everything you do. Thank you to all the people who read poetry, who write children's poetry. To everyone, thank you very much. And to all a good night.
Hi Lee, it's Joyce. I'm up in my office, about to start work. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, but I just wanted to take a moment to stop and say thanks to you. You are such a tireless advocate, you're a fine poet, you've done so much for children and for poetry, and I feel grateful. So, thank you, Lee. And Fox says thank you too.
Hey Lee, I just wanted to thank you for being such a big part of my writing journey. From that first time that you heard me read a poem back in 2011, that little poem about nothing, you made me believe that I could be something. You've coached me along the way, taught me about the publishing industry, told me the best places to go in New York. I can't thank you enough for every step that you've taken along this journey with me. You've been by my side when my first debut novel came out and all the emotions that came with that. And you've also so graciously made me a part of your latest anthology, which I am just tickled pink about being in this huggable, wonderful book. I can't thank you again enough for all of that. You've also introduced me to some fabulous people through your Writers Institute and helped me feel connected with the wonderful world of poetry. And most recently, you had me on the panel speaking with you and Rebecca Davis at an SCBWI conference in Orlando. And by far and away, our session was off the charts. That's what the audience has said without a doubt, and I was thrilled to be there as part of that panel with you. And the crazy thing about it is that panel and that workshop was the exact same workshop where we met 4 years ago in 2011, when you heard a little poem about nothing and told me I could be something. Thank you, Lee, for all of it from the bottom of my heart.
Hi Lee, thanks for your fabulous poetry and for all of your gorgeous anthologies. Your work has been an inspiration and a wonderful education for me as a children's writer, and I really appreciate all you've done for the world of children's poetry and for children's poets everywhere. Thanks.
Hi Lee, Pat here. I'm just delighted to be part of this celebration of your many accomplishments. And I offer you this little gift. Actually, it's a re-gift because it was a poem I wrote for you of Villanelle, as you'll remember, on the occasion of your being awarded the NCTE Excellence in Poetry Prize. The poem is called The Words the Thing. Our lapidary knows what boon to bring to books of poetry a jeweler's eye, for mining whirls of words, the one good thing that we, the silent singers, seek to sing a trope's a trip to an unnatural high. Our lapidary knows what boon to bring, waiting for line and stanza to take wing, not to preserve the moth, but the butterfly. Then mount the dusted words, that one good thing. Let those pursuers of the vaunted ring, who trade in sugared rhymes that stupefy, stop to consider where's the boon to bring us breathless out of winter into spring. May their first tabula rasa be the sky of fabled words, where words, the one good thing. In lieu of accolades, I weave this string, a skein of recollection, let it fly. To you, prized lapidary, may it bring you iambs of delight, the words, the thing. So there you have it, from JPL to LBH. It's a pleasure to be here with you again, virtually. So you have 10 minutes to rest on your laurels and then get back to work, you rascal. Namaste, my dear friend. Namaste.
Hi Lee, Robyn Hood Black here with love from the South Carolina Low Country. Thank you for all that you've done to help write the story of children's poetry for so many years and for the work that you continue to do. Thank you for the magic that happens when a child discovers poetry through words that you've either written or selected. And I can just hear that child saying, read to me, again and again. Thank you for your encouragement and for all the gifts that you continue to give the world.
Hi Lee, I'm here on behalf of the entire Yolland Stemple family, and we want to thank you for inspiring poets, not only in our family, but all over the world. I'm here to read you a poem by my mom, author Jane Yolen. For Lee. Our corner is a cozy couch, anywhere in the convention, where we sit like lovers, curled around conversation. Others may call it gossip, but we know better. For gossip is the beginning of story, the start of a poem. Every meeting has its illicit moments. Ours start with the words, "Have you heard?" And then we sit, two old friends dissecting ideas, compressing compassions, dispensing the medications that keep all writers alive. Thank you, Lee.
Hi, Lee. Thank you so much for believing in my poems and for laughing our heads off. Love you.
Hi Lee, Michelle Kruger here. I'm so happy to participate in this tribute for you, and I'm very grateful for the friendship and mentorship you've offered me over these last many years, and for your belief in my work and the inclusion of so many of my poems in your beautiful books. Now I'd like to recite for you the poem I wrote, Lee Thoughts. Author, bookworm, classy dude, exuding poetic attitude, feisty Floridian, global traveler, happy-hearted, image unraveler, joyful reader, keeper of dreams, literary member of the NCTE team, observant oracle, poetry passer, quintessential editor, reviser, slasher, troubadour to the core, urbane versifier, whittling, weaving wonderful words to express your zest, inspired. Thank you, Lee, for all you do for the community of children's poets and the treasures you have given the genre of poetry.
For LBH, who counsels the poet to use thee sparingly. Thee, the word, distinguishes, sets apart, says this is the one, as I do now, by saluting thee, poet, anthologist, teacher, inspirer, the one, the only, Lee Bennett Hopkins, the unique, the distinguished, Lee.
Hi, Lee. This is Stephanie Kalmanson. It's no surprise that you're being honored for the many contributions you've made to poetry for young people. You have passed the poetry to so many readers. God bless you, Lee Bennett Hopkins.
Hi, Lee. 20 years ago, I sent you a poem called Stars. You said it wouldn't fit into any of your current projects, but that you believed in that little poem and would find a home for it someday. About a year later, you called me to tell me that you were starting a new collection, and you wanted to include Stars plus 2 more of my poems. It was one of the happiest days of my life. Since that time, you have been generous and supportive many times over. I know that a lot of people call you the Pied Piper of poetry, but to me, you will always be the Dream Keeper. Thanks, Lee.
In celebration of Lee Bennett Hopkins' latest honor, here's a poem that I wrote, composed of titles of his poems. So it is entitled Found Poem. When I'm all alone, language spreads its wings. Faces and places flit, flutter, fly. My America is calling me. Wonderful words celebrate all God's children. Let them thread tomorrow to a star, climb a slice of moon. Whispers of thunder rumble, roar. The sky is full of song. Beat the drum, dance, shout. Rainbows of rhyme ring out.
Hi, Lee. It's Georgia. I want to thank you for being a mentor and a good friend these last 20 years and for bringing so much beauty and wisdom to the world and for answering the question, why poetry, which is what so many people ask. And here's a poem you wrote in Falling Down the Page called Why Poetry? Why poetry? Why? Why sunsets? Why trees? Why birds? Why seas? Why you? Why me? Why friends? Why families? Why laugh? Why cry? Why hello? Why goodbye? Why poetry? That's why. You've made poetry as essential as sunsets and trees and birds. And I thank you for that and for all the love you've brought to my life. And I want to send you a big kiss. Mwah.
Hi, Lee. Marilyn Singer here to say, some people are great writers, some are great editors. You are both. As an anthologist, you've introduced so many poets to the world, and you've helped all of us become better writers of poems for children with your wonderful editing. I'm going to read the poem that I wrote when you were given the NCTE Award for Excellence in Poetry, an award which was very well deserved. And it's called On the Phone with Lee, and based on the many wonderful conversations that we've had over the years. Between servings of congratulations, commiseration, gossip, seasoned with generous peals of laughter, I like to picture him in his Floridian palace, surrounded by flowers and fantasy, wearing that passionately purple shirt, though for all I know he may be in his pajamas, the one that yells, "Go on, fans, feast your eyes. A poet's job is always to surprise." So Lee, I hope you're wearing your purple shirt today, and I hope we get to have another one of our wonderful phone conversations very soon. Love you very much.
Lee, one of the best things I've ever done was to take that amazing poetry masterclass you taught for the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators in Los Angeles. Everything I had heard about you being a mentor to aspiring poets turned out to be true. What a thrill to open a Lee Bennett Hopkins anthology and see another of my poems rubbing elbows with poetry from writers whose work inspires my own. When Renee contacted me about this tribute to you, I felt compelled to write this poem. Editor, for Lee Bennett Hopkins. Charming, funny, gentle, wise, you read my work with hooded eyes. Here a question, there a wink. Suggestions pushing me to think. I scan the sense, I scan the rhyme, revising it yet one more time. You guide, I seek. Your hand refines each poem I write until it shines. I feel fortunate to not only know you as an editor and fellow poet, but as a friend. Congratulations on this well-deserved tribute, Lee. You deserve it.
Lee Bennett Hopkins is pretty great. We all know that. Sylvia Vardell and I tried to capture a sense of that in Dear One, a tribute book to Lee Bennett Hopkins. And for this book, I decided to write a poem about how Lee is always called the Johnny Appleseed of children's poetry. So in Apple Cider, you can substitute Lee Bennett Hopkins for the name John Chapman. Apple Cider. John Chapman traveled west years ahead of the rest, taking seeds from trees planted previously, raising seedlings. When pioneers arrived, thirsty, weary from their journeys, they wanted something sweet, but with a little bite, a daily tonic that could make them feel dizzy but strong. If you were growing apples only to sell, apparently you should graft, copy the proven and old to safely reproduce something palatable if bland. Seed, on the other hand, is unpredictable. You cannot bank on a seedling's greatness, but Chapman and his followers didn't mind taking chances. They weren't growing fruit, after all. They grew good times. Children used to hate apples. back when it was their duty to chew through those dry, shriveled things for their well-being. Johnny Appleseed changed the landscape, changed America. How can you hate apples once you have tasted cider? Thank you, Lee, for being the Johnny Appleseed of children's poetry. We owe so much to you.
Ciao Lee, c'est moi. Where to begin? When I first contacted you back in April 2012 for a Skype interview, I certainly didn't expect it to take a full year for us to get ourselves together. But you were there that whole time, sending me those Dear One emails, letting me know you hadn't forgotten about me, and I so appreciated that. And then when we finally did get to it, I was tickled at the end when you said, "Wow, that was fun, what can we do next?" And of course, I had lots of ideas, and thus was born our NCTE Poets Project. But more importantly, what was born was the beginning of a fabulous paisley-patterned friendship that I cherish. Oh, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to your marvelous Charles, without whom we would never get your camera turned on. And of course, you'd never have cookies. So thanks, Charles. So anyway, Lee, I wanted to thank you for being my mentor, my friend, for throwing yourself with all of your amazing energy into our various projects, for believing in my poetry and being the gentle, sometimes not so gentle goad who forced me to write that book, for, of course, the immense honor of the dedication in your gorgeous, amazing places, and of course, most importantly, for sharing my love of show tunes. You are one of a kind, and I have so enjoyed and am grateful for every virtual moment we've spent together. Grazie dal cuore.
Bye, Lee.
Bye, Renee.
Ta 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 la la ta ta.
Oh, Renee, I should write a book.
Haven't you already? Ay, ay, ay.
Hello, Lee. It's Rebecca Doutledge. For those of you who don't know me, I'm here to talk with Lee. Lee, I just want to say hello and to tell you how much you've meant to me and how much you've meant to poetry. And of course, you know that. And but I want to show something. This is one of the very first letters. Actually, I think it might have been the second or the third that you had ever sent to me. I'm going to show you your signature. This is back when we were cordially and sincerely. That's way before we started our arguing and our loving each other and our helping each other. This was way before either one of us had computers. You'll remember this was from 1993 and way before. In fact, if you'll remember, I'm the one that taught you how to use email. Lee, you'll remember that you and I have worked together on poetry. You actually let me be in this book, my very first book of yours that I was in, called Small Talk. And other than that, then you had me to your apartment in Greenwich Village and your Kimmy's Cove condo and your home in Florida, and we've worked side by side on poetry. We've worked by email and by telephone, and you have been my biggest supporter. You've been encouraging, more than I could ever imagine, but also tough, and that's okay. You've taught me a lot, and you're one of my very best friends ever. You know so much about poetry, more than I can even begin to put in this little video. You're brilliant. You're supportive of so many people, not just me. And your passion for poetry and for children has always been what has made me respect you the most. And I love you, and I hope we can continue to work, all of us together in this poetry world, for years and years to come. And congratulations on everything you've ever earned and every award you've ever gotten. There needs to be even more for you. You deserve it all. And thank you, Lee, and from all of us. And we hope we have many more years to celebrate you and to celebrate poetry together. Goodbye.